Okay, so today I want to showcase some of my designs in my sketchbook. Now this is my impromptu design book. If I have an idea and I don't know where to write it, I just put it in here. And this notebook has been used for a couple years. Still not quite done. I still haven't filled out all the pages quite yet, but I think a lot of the designs in here I'm quite proud of. So let me go to the first page. And now these are mostly crochet designs. So this would be like something I would crochet and then I would create a makeshift pattern in the next page. But for this one, it was a design I saw off of Pinterest. It was a white and baby blue sweater, if I remember correctly. And it would have bow designs for the pocket. In the front, it would have 2 pockets. And it would have wooden buttons to button up the jacket. You can see white, blue. I was color coordinating it, and for this part in the middle where the buttons are, it was gonna have a white and blue design to it. I actually didn't make this one, however I made the stitches so I would make like a sleeve and make the front. I didn't know how to connect it quite right yet, so I would make the seams too tight. I made them like twice as tight accidentally, and this one actually showed me how to connect pieces of fabric together without decreasing the size of the actual product. And so like I said, this is just the makeshift pattern that I made for it. So the numbers that correspond to it showcase how many of it I need. So for this one, I would need 2. And the letters, like the W and the B, showcase what color I needed for it. So I think this was the side, this was the sleeves, this I think was the bottom of the jacket. So like right here, these 3 were the middle where the buttons were. Because I wanted to make these separate because I didn't know how to change colors in crochet quite yet. These right here, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what this is. It's blue. Need I say more? I think these were supposed to be the bows. These were little pockets. So these were going to be on the top of the pockets right here and right here. And then these were going to be the bottom of the pocket. Not the top of it, but the bottom and the side, if that makes sense. And this would have been like the middle of the bows. And these are just some buttons. So for the next page, this says, should be the same size unless it would be super wide, and this is width and length. So how I usually make my patterns is I would pick a width or a length. So like for this example, this would be width and then this would be length. And I would measure how much the width and the length I needed. Usually I would just guesstimate it. I would never measure it, which I have to start doing because I still don't. I think this was still for this jacket. I think this was to measure out how long I needed to make this bottom piece right here, and how long I needed to make the middle where the buttons would go. And these are some stitch counters I had for the arm and pocket. So for the arm cuffs, I would do 20 stitches wide by 5 stitches in length. And this was probably with a 3.25 millimeter. If I would have to guess, this would be with a 2.5 or a 2.125 millimeter. Pocket B, so pocket B would be right here. And it would be 15 stitches in width and 5 stitches in length, and I would have to make these twice. The sleeve, I put 45 stitches for the width times question mark, and I did not want to measure out the length, so that's why I put a question mark. But for the side right here, it says do 10 rows of 10, and then I scribbled something out, and then I wrote continue for length of jacket. So this was my rudimentary way of measuring. I would do 10 rows of 10 for the length of it, and then I would connect the pieces at the end. And this was the sleeve of this jacket. It says add 3 to both sides once you get to this part where it increases. And right here, so basically the back of a shirt has 3 components instead of 2. Now originally I thought it only had 2 components, which would be right here to right here, so like the square, and this part where it would cave in on both sides until you get to the length of the space in between the neck and the shoulder blades. However, there's actually 3 parts of a jacket, which would be this little square here, a part where it decreases the stitch from here, and this would be like the sleeve holes, and a part where it goes up afterward, and this would be where the part of the shirt and the back of part of the shirt mean? And this is just a very basic example. There's more to shirts, obviously. This is me gaining a basic understanding of what shirts basically are. And I could be totally wrong, so if I'm wrong, leave it in the comments. I do want to know that. And this right here is me counting how many rows of blue and white I need for this middle section. But the numbers right here are just making sure I'm on the right counter. And this would mean that it's 2 stitches wide and the length is 160. I originally thought it was 90, but I changed my mind to 150, but then I changed my mind again to 160, so it's 160. And this was me trying to wrap my head around what the jacket would look like if I laid it flat on the floor. And right here, this is interesting. I like this one. So this is my first ever sketch of what I wanted my dress to be like. And I'm quite proud of it still. So let me explain it really quickly. So right here, it's going to have a off the shoulder design. And I actually still kept this off the shoulder design, though I changed the pattern up a little bit in the real dress that I made. And these like weird shapes, those are supposed to be sakura petals. So it's going to be a white dress with sakura petals draping down from it, and I think that's pretty cool. Originally I was gonna have the space in between the sakura petals, and like I was gonna make it so the background fabric like you could see through. So right here you would be able to see through it, and there would be a strapless bra, a white one attached to the top, which I still think I'm gonna do for the dress. And I did change up the sakura pattern design a little bit from this one to the actual dress, and I changed the sleeves. Instead of it just being like an off the shoulder, we were gonna have transparent sleeves until the cuff of the arm, and at the cuff of the arm there was going to be white. It was going to match the bra. It was either going to be white or there was going to be sakura petal on it. I never decided on that. And this is how big I wanted the dress to be in this picture right here. So I wanted the dress to be big and poofy. And over here, this is some designs I had for the skirt originally. So the width was going to be 25, the trail length was going to be 10, so it's going to have a royal trailing, and the waist, the floor measurements were 41. That's how many inches my waist was to the floor and how big I wanted the dress to be. So originally I had this design where it was going to be 4 this shape attached to one another. Then I realized the waist was going to be a bit funny looking. I did that, so I changed the design from this one, for 4 of this one, to 2 of this design for the front side of the dress and 2 of these for the back side of the dress. So it was going to have these 2 for the front and then this one and one that is the exact same, just mirrored on the back side of the dress. And so I had some measurements right here on how big I wanted this part of the dress to be. So the length would be 41 inches and the radius would be 4, and the radius is basically just this little curve right here, how big I wanted that little curve to be. I don't know what f plus b equals. I never clarified what these 2 variables mean, so if I try to make this, which I probably will eventually, I'm gonna be completely lost as to f plus b equals. I'm gonna have to watch the video that showed me how to make these kinds of skirts again. And so the next page is just more sakura petals. And I was trying to figure out how to add structure to the sakura petals. And so my original idea was to just add wire enclosed in the fabric. But then I realized that like there was no way I would be able to put this in the washing machine. So I kind of scratched this idea. And I actually changed the design from these sakura petals to buying these cheap flower petals from Shein. And I did that all for the top of the dress I did actually make. So right here it says times like a million, because I didn't know how many sakura petals to make for the dress. And these 2 are more diagrams of what I wanted the skirt to look like. It says times 2 and that says times 2. Radius equals 4, just like this page here. And this measurement for the length of this one right here would be 10 feet. So it would be quite a long crochet project. So right here, this was a mock-up of a purse that I would make. The inspiration was actually this book right here. And the inspiration was actually this purse right here. And instead of it being a bow design, I actually changed the design to be a butterfly. So this would be a strap to open the purse, and these 2 would be strap for like where the backpack would like hang over your shoulder. So it would be a strap connecting the top of the backpack to the bottom. So for in this one, I actually wrote that it would be a bow, but I changed the design right here, make it into a butterfly. This would be like the big part of the bow, and then I would get the strap and then put it in the middle, so it would create like a bow-like effect. And this would be D times 1, and I numbered each part of the potential box that I would need. So it's A, B, C, and D and E, and that would just be different parts of the box. So for D, it would be the top of the box, and I wanted to make it so that there would be a button on the underside of this butterfly bow, so that way you could open it and close the box. And then I put E, which would be just the sides of the box, and I would need 4 of them because 1, 2, 3, 4, and D would also be a part of this side of the box. And now for the bow design, I changed it up a little bit compared to this one. I made it into like a butterfly design, and then G would be like the middle part that would just be black, you know, the black part of the butterfly in the middle. And then I wrote a very rudimentary pattern for this one. I wrote that the first step for this pattern would be for each side of E and D, which would be this one and this one, put sheets of metal between the inside and outside layer of fabric. So for E, it should be 8 instead of 4 that you need. So for E, you would need 8 sides of fabric, and D, you need 2 sides of fabric. So that way you could put metal inside them and hide it. So that way when you open the purse, you wouldn't see the metal. And that way it would add structure to the design. You can either put metal or plastic. It doesn't really matter. If it was up to me and I would have to make this, I would probably put plastic inside of metal, but they're interchangeable. And then I put cut metal 1 inch smaller than fabric to account for seam allowance. It says put fabric and then close. So you want to sew 3 sides of the fabric, and then you want to put the metal inside of here, and then you want to close the fabric, and you'd have to like hand sew it instead of using a sewing machine to make this. For this design, it was gonna be a Victorian style kind of dress, so it's gonna be very poofy at the bottom and very poofy at the sleeves. So right here at this part of the dress, it was gonna be elastic right here, and then at the bottom it's gonna be kind of poofy like I said, and there's gonna be a slit on the side of the dress, so it's gonna be very elegant. This part of the dress, not the slit, so like the rest of it's gonna be very elegant, very posh, I think would be a good word for it. So white, and like you'd get some fabric that's kind of like see-through that's white as well, or like hell, even throw some purple in there, it would look good. And there's gonna be a belt with a flower with pieces of flower hanging out from the middle, and this is gonna be like the stem parts of the flower was my idea. And on the slit of the fabric is gonna be a mishmash of different types of fabric. So for example, I have like a polka dot fabric right here, one with stripes right there. It's just gonna be a mishmash in the little slit, but the rest of the dress is gonna be very posh, very elegant. I'm probably not gonna make it, if I'm gonna be honest, but I like the design. I like it quite a lot. And right here, this is another page I really like. So this is me trying to figure out how to attach object permanence in relation to emotional attachment and how I could portray it on fabric, which I still don't know the answer to. And then I wrote, how could one show object permanence in art, which I'm still wondering. How does one attach object permanence as it relates to art? How does one portray that emotion? Which I think it's up for me to decide. I still don't quite know the answer quite yet, but I have some drawings of, this is like a very basic drawing someone would do if they were trying to draw braids and hair. And right here, I have an idea for this one at the bottom. So it's gonna be like different kinds of stained glass all put together. So it'd be kind of like a chandelier, and this would be all different colors of stained glass. I don't know how you would put a light in here quite yet, but I think this is a really cool idea. It would be a really cool art exhibition in my opinion. And right here, I have an idea for a video, and I still might do it. I'm gonna do this sooner or later. Mark my words on it. So it's gonna have 3 sheets of plastic, and there's gonna be one right above where my phone is right now. So it's gonna be leaning at I heard a 90-degree angle works best, but it's gonna be a 45 to 90-degree angle. All of these are gonna be at that angle, and they're all gonna have screens at the bottom. So there's gonna be a screen right here, and a screen behind this TV, and a screen right here, and they're all gonna be portraying a video on my computer that I put into different files, so that way I could display it on the screens, and it would look like I had an interactive touchscreen. And I already have the videos ready, I just need to set up the plastic, and I have to figure out a way on how to hide the screens at the bottom so I can make it look real, because once the videos on the screen get portrayed on this class, it would look like a hologram. So it would look like I have a holographic interactive hologram, but in reality it's just going to be videos. But I think that is really cool if you send it to someone who doesn't have like a knowledge of ghost pepper effect, I think that's what it's called, then they're going to be super confused. They're going to be wondering how you did it, especially if you find a good way to hide these screens and make it look believable. But right here, I have a sketch of a dress, and in pencil right here, a design of the dress if it didn't have a seam connecting it in the middle. So you can see it like laid out flat. And right here, this would be like the strap, and that would be the back strap. So it would be front strap and back strap. And the straps each would be 25 stitches wide. And the waist of the bottom of the shirt would be the beginning of the skirt. And then I would add width to the skirt by adding +2 stitches for each row. And this entire bottom of the skirt is going to be double crochet. I think I actually do have this dress. This dress is what I think it is, and I do have it. It did not come out good at all. I think it's because if you put double crochet, unless you like have it grow more than 2 times each row, it will look very tight on the dress, and I wanted to make it look really poofy. But I think if I put my head together, if I like put my thinking cap on, I'd be able to figure out how to make it look poofy in the constraints of crochet. And right here, this was a sketch of the shirt. So the top part of the shirt, like this dress part. So this would be the front of the shirt, and this would be the back of the shirt. And I actually wrote a bunch of measurements for the shirt, so you can make it if you want to. I use single crochet, not double crochet. So this would be the back side of the shirt, and this would be the front side of the shirt. The middle of armpits to the sleeve would be 35 stitches wide, and then the length of the strap would be 50 stitches, and that would be including the front and the back. The length for the back in between the sleeves is actually a little bit different between these two. So for the back it would be 30, and for the front it would be 35, and then for the other sleeve to right here, the starting spot, would be 70. I think I actually did make this. I changed up the sleeves quite a bit compared to this drawing. This shirt is what I think it is, and then it came out really nicely. And right here, I actually stole this idea again from Pinterest. So this idea was going to be for a Lolita dress. There was going to be ruffles on the sleeves and a bow in the middle, and there's going to be ruffles under the bow, and it was going to be a lot of bows and a lot of ruffles, and it was going to look super cute. And then in the back, there's a huge bow. The sleeves of the bow would be right here. Trails the bow? I think that's the correct word. So they would be like a middle section, and then there would be the first bow, and then the second bow, and then the big trail for the bow. And the back would have a bow. And this is the very basic dress with how accessories attach. So the accessories would be like the ruffles or the bows. You know, it's like the dress as basic as you can get it, while still kind of looking like the dress. So I was just gonna make this all white, and this was me imagining how the ruffles would look. I never did make this dress, but it was just something for me to design, because making this would have been a pain in the butt. And there's a lot of projects I'm working on that are a pain in the butt, but at my current skill level when I made this, it would have been too much a pain in the butt for me to have done and have it came out wearable, I think is a good way to put it. So this would be white, so it would go from up here and it would like work its way down. I didn't know how to work in the round, so like work in a circle. I especially didn't know it here, and I didn't know how like dresses work. I didn't know if there would be like a seam that I was gonna attach in the back, but this is just something for me to design to kind of gauge how dresses work basically. And right here, this design right here, it would be like a black dress. And in these circles right here, it was going to be those like see-through balloons. The ones that aren't colored, I was gonna have that fabric for the circles. It seems like a pretty cool design. And right here, I actually do want to make this one, but this one is a pain in the butt to do. But I really want to make this one. So this one, Jacket, was actually based off of Kaguya's kimono from The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. And I was going to make it into a jacket. Okay, so in the front, so this entire thing is going to be bright pink. It's going to be hot pink. And these feathers is going to be white. And these two right here and right here, they're going to be flat. There's not going to be any angle, these two flowers right here. But all the other ones, besides these two, because these are going to be flat again, these two, these are going to be at a 45-degree angle if I remember correctly, and it's going to have kind of like this design to it. It's going to have that design in the back. This would be the bottom, the strip would be the bottom of the jacket from right here to right here. This would be the length, so it would be from right here to right here. And this would be the cuffs of the jacket, so right here and right here. These two would be the sleeves, so it would be 2 sleeves from right here and right here. And it says that I was gonna do double crochet for the jacket, but for the cuffs and the accents would be single crochet instead. And the flower petals almost would be single crochet. And this is what the base would look like, and then I would attach the sleeves onto it. And it's still kind of what I do. I kind of make this like basic thing, and then I attach the sleeves onto it. And this would be like a very basic design of how I was going to attach the flowers. So I was going to start with these two, and then I was going to do the bottom one, and then I was going to do these two, and then kind of like work my way down. And this was like another picture of how I imagined this looking like if I like placed it all flat. And this right here is actually for a completely different drawing. This would be for this like patchwork jacket I had in mind. So it would be baby blue, hot pink, white, baby blue, hot pink, white, and it would go in this kind of pattern. But after I realized I messed up, I kind of gave up on the project. And right here, this is some more drawings I did at the fashion show. And these two, okay, so I kind of like this shape right here. And I was thinking how to incorporate those two in a shirt. So this is my first example where I did this one, and then I realized, hey, that kind of looks like the butterfly crochet that kind of blew up a few years ago. And then I did this one where I just got these two shapes, mirrored it, put it together, and this kind of looks like an old shirt I made. I did have to frog it so I could create the wing backpack. So this was originally white, and there would be like a red accent in the middle and on the sides. I had to get rid of it, but I still have a picture of it. But I do really like this cut for this type of shirt. Would look good if you had like black pants, and they were leather black pants, so they were kind of tight. And I think this pattern mixed with those pants would look good, though I gotta figure out how to make this kind of stand out, because just seeing this, it would look mid, but you gotta add something to it to make it look just nice. And right here, this was actually in Animal Crossing. They have those like really big statues. I forget what they're called. It's like the Japanese architecture. I used that to kind of model this building. And I was gonna include this and this beach, this picture of a palm tree that I kind of butchered. I was gonna put it in like a background of a shirt. I was gonna paint it onto a shirt and then use embroidery to kind of like highlight the sections. However, I realized I cannot even draw it, so I'll just pick something else easier to do. And right here, this drawing right here, I have this idea for a shirt, and I don't know if I'll do it or not. If I do it, it's not gonna be anytime soon. It's gonna be quite a while from now. But there's gonna be two things of fabric draping from the shoulders of the shirt, and there's gonna be one line on one side of the shirt, and then a horizontal line going from the bottom of the second line to like the side of the shirt. And the back of the shirt, this line isn't gonna be there. It's gonna be plain color. And there's actually gonna be two of these strands, so one on the front side and one on the back. If I can figure out how to do that and not have them just like go to one side. And right here is another design I had. This is a design from a while ago. I just never did anything with it. So there's gonna be a circle in the middle, and there's gonna be two lines in an X pattern. It's just a crop top. It's a very basic crop top. So these straps are gonna be white, and this outside circle is gonna be white. But whatever color this like inside of the shirt is, this inside of the circle is gonna be that color. Some more blank pages. And right here, this picture, I actually did make this one, but this is another one that came out absolutely horrible. So right here, I was gonna use feathers that I made previously and that I never got to use, and put them at the top for like this dress. I was actually gonna use the feathers as like a bottom thing. But yeah, I kind of like the design. I wish that when I made it, it didn't come out absolute poop crap though, because it was absolutely horrible when I decided to make it. And these are two drawings that I made just recently. I kind of like these two drawings. These are my most recent designs. So let me start with this one. This one might have a little bit of explaining to do as compared to this one. This one's very basic compared to this one. So for this one, I'm going to use metal. I'm going to heat up the metal to make it curve. And I'm going to use purple yarn and drape the metal once it's cooled in this purple yarn. It's going to be a shirt on the bottom, and it's kind of hard to see it. So there's going to be a sleeve right here, and it's going to cut diagonally until the cuff of the other sleeve. So the sleeve on like the left side is gonna start way earlier as compared to the other sleeve, because the other sleeve is going all the way down to the cuff, but this is gonna start early, so that way it can create a diagonal effect to the cuff. And on top of the shirt, it's gonna be like attaching points almost. So like for this neck part, there's gonna be an attached point, and for this bottom part, it's gonna be an attached point. But the rest of this kind of like spiral to the top is going to be floating. Like, it's not going to be connected to the shirt, but it's going to be slightly bigger than the shirt, so there's going to be some space in between the shirt and the metal, which I think is pretty cool. And I really want to make it, but I have no idea how to make it. I just got some metal, so I have to trial and error it. Okay, so the N and X are variables for this design. So N is the first color and the X is the second color. So in my mind, the N color equals a neutral color, and the X color is going to equal a bright color like purple in my mind. And this drawing right here is a very simple, elegant dress. It's probably going to be white, and there's going to be a black design on top of it. So this first layer is going to be a base color, and then on top of the base color is going to have a holographic layer. And on top of the holographic layer, I was going to embroider some designs onto it. So the very basic design I had was with white thread, because the white thread and the holographic layer would go quite well together. It's either that or pastel purple, but I don't think I have any pastel purple, so it's probably going to be white. I'm going to create like this flat up pattern, and I'm going to make it into like this design, accentuating the waist and the upper chest, if you get what I'm saying. And I think it would look quite nice if I space out this down a little bit compared to where the actual upper chest ends. And I think the waist would look quite nice if I use the right color for the base anyway. It would all look quite nice, but it's all dependent on what color I use for the base. I really hate this design, mostly because I did not draw the face right at all. So it's gonna be like a little hat, like those French people wear, the little hat on the side of the face. It's gonna be kind of like a veil, but the veil is gonna be solid instead of see-through like most veils are that widows wear. And the solid veil is gonna be a bright color. So it's going to be a solid, bright veil. And in my head, the bright veil is going to be red, like bright red, but I don't think I'm going to actually do this one, mostly because I hate this drawing so much. But for this one, I really like this design. Okay, so there's the wing backpack that I just made that she's wearing. And on the other side, on her other shoulder, there's going to be a beginning of this pattern where it's going to slowly drape down. And it's going to be like a triangle, so it gets small right here, but it gets bigger like down here. And it's going to kind of create a ruffle effect if I attach it correctly, hopefully. And it's gonna have kimono sleeves. So what that means is just gonna be flat like this. It's just gonna have these sleeves, and the hand is like this. So like there's a lot of space in between the wrist and the bottom of the sleeve. And I'm not gonna try to make it look basic. I'm gonna try to make it look a little bit cool. And I want to make this someday. I do not have any desire to crochet it right now, but I do want to make it one day. And right here I have another design. Okay, it kind of looks bad. I'm gonna be for real. I'm gonna be the first one to say it. It looks bad, but let me explain it real quick. So it's gonna be a track shirt, like jacket and track pants. And you know how in like track shirts and pants they have like the lines on the shoulders and like down the sleeves? Well, there's gonna be flowers on those parts. That's not too creative, but it seems like a really easy project to do. And right here on the side is actually another design that I made. It's kind of like Sailor Moon-esque is my idea for it. So it's going to be like a tank top, basic tank top, kind of like a crop tee. So it's going to have like a t-shirt design basically. But on top of the t-shirt, there's going to be like a bar. And on that bar, it's going to be color N. So like, let's just say the N right here, and right here is one color. So let's just say it's white. Let's just say that, right? And so this space right here would be white, and this strap right here would be white. And this strap up here is just purely for decoration. There's no actual purpose, but I thought it would look cool. So this color would match this one, and it would match this one. And now let's say X. This is another one where I used variables for the colors. So for X, it's gonna be, let's say black. Pretty easy. So like it would be black here, and black right here. And in the middle, it's gonna have a circle, and it's gonna create the same holographic effect like I said the last two times. It's gonna be like one of those see-through balloons. It's gonna be right in the circle, right under the collarbone. It's not gonna be too big of a circle. It's gonna be a small circle, but I think it would look really cool. And this, I'm gonna go over these, and then I'm gonna flip it and show you these. So right here it's just a design I saw for Futurama where they said, oh, circles are so in right now. And so this is like a big circle, and it's just like a tank top. And it's one of the circles where it's like the other design I made where it doesn't actually touch the skin, it's like floating. And this is like a butterfly crochet thing I did. It's subverting the butterfly expectation, so it's in the shape of a butterfly. However, I gave it another design that's not a butterfly. It's gonna have like a spiral and a circle in the middle. But right here, I like this design right here. So I tried to make this a reality. It didn't really work out, but I'm gonna try it again, see if I can make it work. So the design was right here. So my idea for it is that I was gonna have different layers of crochet, and these like 3 layers are gonna be like see-through. So there's gonna be like a pattern on the design, and the rest is gonna be see-through. And so if you put them all on top of another, and it would look like, for this example, so I tried to draw a Hatsune Miku, just like reaching out at you. So it would look like she's actually reaching out of her crochet thing to get you. But when I try to do it in reality, I use a very thin like thread for the see-through parts, which didn't work. So the thread, instead of it being in like the same spot over and over again, because the patterns were different for each layer, they weren't in the same spot. Like if you put all the layers together and then try to look at it, you wouldn't be able to see the bottom layer because all the thread was like hiding the bottom layer. But I think I might redo this with fabric, embroidery, and crochet to create that kind of perspective. And this last one, this is how I got the idea to use embroidery and fabric. So for the first layer, I was going to use embroidery to create leaves. And on the second layer, I was going to use fabric paint on a holographic fabric to create this illusion that the flowers are actually 3D. And I want to test this out, but I do not have holographic fabric. So it might be a while before I test this out, but I do want to test this out. This seems like such a cool idea, because if this works, and the possibilities for creating dimensions in clothes is exponential. But that's all for right now. If y'all have any questions, leave it in the comment. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and bubble. Obviously, you can't forget the bubble one. And I will see y'all eventually when I decide to post again. Bye!